Simply without her trying. So beautiful. Such love every day. Yeah, I know when I come up with this, she loves me. And it's so sad to me that she don't see what I see. Every time she asks me, do I say,
oh my God, I love that song. All right, we're gonna get started like super fast right now, so love it. We are a bit, as you can notice, just giving you a heads up, totally no hair dryer still, so that's the downfall of having a great hair dryer, is you have to like ship it out and then it gets shipped back. But I'm leaving for Florida in like literally a day and a half, so at the end of the day, I am probably gonna be hair dryerless, but guess what? Bigger problems exist. I'm going to be doing my last Ironman of the year. Thank God. I am literally, I don't think my body can, well, it can. I mean, it's doing great, but at this point, I'm a little tired of working out. I was explaining to somebody the other day before we get started, because this actually has a lot to do with the compound effect, which is what we're talking about today, is that I was explaining to somebody that they were saying, oh, wow, you're going to go do another Ironman. I said, yeah. And then I sat down and I looked and I said, wait a second, in the last 6 months, and it totally hasn't even hit me until now, in the last 6 months, this will be my second Ironman. It will technically be my third marathon. I did Chicago just a couple weeks ago. So it'll be my third marathon in 6 months, second Ironman, full Ironman in 6 months. I did 3 short races, short course triathlon races, which I've never done before. Those are speed, and I'm usually an endurance person, not a speed person. So anyway, so speed was really interesting, and I won all 3 of them, which was great. And then I got into time trials, bike racing, which is where I'm going in 2022. But I got into time trials for bike racing. I did 5 of them, and I won all 5. So I looked at what I did in the last 6 months and I went, excuse my language, I went, holy shit, that's a lot of stuff to do in 6 months. Athletically, that's a lot to do. Now, those of you who know my story, I come from the bottom of, I've always been fit, but I had a period in my life where I had some bad habits, which is kind of what we're talking about today. So in order to have bad habits, lots of things have to happen. You don't just become out of shape. It takes a long time to become out of shape. You can get marginally out of shape, but you know what? You can rebound quite quickly. But to become incredibly out of shape, you have to do a lot of things. To become successful in business, equally, you have to do a lot of different things. So I'm always being interviewed by people who are saying, you know what? How'd you do it? How'd you get here? It's remarkable. And I don't look at it as remarkable. What I look at it as is I look at myself as saying it's the compound effect, which is what we're talking about today. So everybody who knows me well knows that there's one thing that I always royally shit the bed on, is my run. And you know what? It's because I go way too hard out on many different things, in swimming, in cycling. Cycling is my passion. So like when I hit the bike, it's very hard to pull back when all I want to do is pass people and I just want to go. I just want to go. I want to give everything I've got on the bike. And it's hard to explain that to people, but I'm pretty sure in Florida, the same thing's going to happen and I'm okay with it. I'm trying to figure out how to become a more disciplined runner. It's very difficult. I don't have any discipline and I feel very bad for my coach in that area, but it's work in progress. And just in the 5 months that I've worked with my most recent run coach, that's what we're going to be working on all winter, is we're going to be working on the compound effect. We're going to be doing many small changes, not big changes, many consistent small changes to really see that whole process take to its different level. And then, so it's kind of hard for me to, when people say to me, wow, I mean, you've just done really well. And like, it's crazy to see you go from here to here, and they can't figure it out. They're looking for that one solution going, how did you do it? How did you become a fast cyclist when I only started 3 years ago? How did you become an amazing swimmer when I couldn't 4 years ago? And the truth is that it's the compound effect. Okay. It's all the small things that I did that other people don't see or they're not willing to do. Okay, and that's the difference. If you're looking at a formula for the compound effect, and by the way, let me tell you a little bit about the compound effect. The compound effect is an actual book. Okay, sorry about that. A compound effect is a book by Darren Hardy, and it's a great book to explain what it is. And really, the author gives a lot of analogies to really show you how the compound effect can work. It's the small things in life, that's the concept. It's the small things in life that make the biggest differences. As a business coach myself, is we take about, right now, we're just heading into November. And so far this year, just this year, which is crazy. Anyway, so far this year, we have built over 520 Canadian businesses. We have American businesses as well, but 520 Canadian businesses have been brought to over $1 million of revenue just this year so far. Okay, we have 800 clients. We're going to hit that. So all of them are pretty much like they're just on that last stretch, as we like to call it, because our year ends December 1st. So we've done that with over 500 companies this year alone. And that's one of my passion things. And what I noticed with all of them is that it's the small things that they do. It's not the big things, okay? It's the small things that make the biggest difference. As I said before, you don't become obese overnight, nor do you become wealthy overnight or successful in business overnight. There's no such thing, okay? Now, you can become wealthy if you buy a lottery ticket and you kind of win that overnight, but let's be fair. The only lotteries I ever win are the ones that have to do with marathons. And I will prove that fact by saying it right now on video. I did apply for the Berlin Marathon, and they draw in January, and it's a lottery. I guarantee you I'll get it. I guarantee it, because I don't win anything but lotteries. So the point is that Atomic Habits, yes, Atomic Habits, Natalie, is a great one. I love Atomic Habits. The compound effect is the same kind of concept, but the compound effect, it's all about how the effect of bad decisions and how they're taken almost every day over a considerable time period, and the good decisions every day over a considerable time period. It's about good decision versus bad decisions. And Atomic Habit, which is one of my favorite books, by the way, is very similar to this one as well. Compound effect is really long-term, and it's more about choices, and choices do lead to habits. But what you are going to see in the compound effect here, because the Atomic Habits is really a great book for that, but what you're seeing is your choices, which are small, insignificant actions, equal plus your behaviors, plus your habits, plus time over time will equal the compound effect, which will equal huge rewards. That's kind of how it is. So the difference with Atomic Habits versus compound effect is you're measuring it. So the author has really some good practical suggestions about, basically implementing good habits and getting rid of the bad ones, which is really important as well. Okay, so if you want to lose weight, for example, most people would say, okay, you know what, buy an expensive gym membership, buy your shoes, buy your fancy schmancy clothes, do what you've got to do, blah, blah, blah. And then they work out intensely, okay, for an hour a day for 7 days. Okay, so that's great. Then they give up because after a week, they're totally disappointed with the results. And they're going, man, that was like a lot of work. I worked out for 7 days. I did an hour a day. I got no results. I'm totally giving up. And so what the author in this book suggests with compound effect is they say, and which is different than Atomic Habits. Atomic Habits is creating all new different habits. The compound effect is about small. Okay, small. I want you to think the difference. We're already talking about habits, habitual stuff, but the compound effect is about small changes equal great results as opposed to changing habits altogether. So what they talk about in the book is instead it's better to walk 10 minutes a day and slowly increasing it until it becomes a bigger, stronger habit, like brushing your teeth, in a way which you'll have a longer impact on your health system. Too many people, like for example, they'll set a goal of running a marathon or something, or a 10K, and then they'll work out, then they'll hammer it out, they'll work out at it, and then all of a sudden it's like they don't have a habit of running. They just don't, or they'll end up injured or something along those lines. Basically, the compound effect is small changes leading to a gradual, bigger habit over time. It's taking time and not rushing things and being acceptance that, for example, like I said, I have to get better at running. There's no choice. I just don't have a choice. And I want to get better at running. Don't get me wrong. I want to get better at running. And I'm not a shitty runner. I just make shitty choices. So I have to change some of the smaller choices, and I have to be patient. That it's going to take all winter. But then in the spring, everybody's going to see a very different runner, which they're already starting to see. But in the springtime, it'll be a very different runner. And everybody's going to go, well, how did you do that? And I'm going to be like, well, small changes over time. So this compound effect is always in action, be it in financing, whether it's in business, whether it's health, whether it's in relationships, and it could be spiritually as well. The compound effect is always in effect. Okay, so even in friendships, it's little small things that you can do, or if you're trying to get to know somebody, it's little small things that lead to the bigger relationships and the bigger stuff. A lot of people are like all or nothing, and that's really not what the compound effect. So it's about taking things really slow, working every day without burning stuff out, and then also giving you big momentum later. So I'm going to talk about a few different things here, okay? So there's a place that Tony Robbins calls it, okay? And I want to bring this up because it's a really important thing. He calls it no man's land. And I have that here because no man's land is the most dangerous place you can be, whether it's any of those categories for the compound effect as we've talked about. So what no man's land really technically is, and you'll apologize, I'm trying to stretch things out a little, I'm super tight. So anyway, so the point is that Tony Robbins refers to it as no man's land. No man's land is crazy, okay? It's the place where people go. I hate no man's land. Like it joneses me out when I hear about no man's land. So anyway, it's where you go because you're not happy with where you are right now. You're not happy with it. For whatever reason, it could be big, small, you're just not happy with where you are, but you aren't so unhappy that you're willing to do something about it. So that's what we refer to as no man's land. So it's called complacency basically. So when complacency hits in an area, people look for big changes. They're like, well, I'm really not happy with my job. I'm not happy with my job. So then all of a sudden they go, okay, well, what are you willing to do about it? Well, I'm not so unhappy with it that I'm willing to do something about it, because then they get stuck in no man's land where they think that it has to be something bigger that you have to do to become happier in your work-life balance. You don't. Just do small changes. What is it that you're truly not happy about? Chunk it down into what choices are you making that are making you unhappy there? What behaviors need to be changed just a little bit in order for that to happen? Creating a better habit behind it, and over time you will see it has a compound effect that has huge results. So for example, if you're not happy with where you are and there's a point that you can go from here to here, let's say a promotion or a different career choice or something like that, what do you have to do? What are the small things that you have to do to implement today to make that happen? So it's an operating system. Basically, the compound effect is an operating system you've had your whole life. It's not immediate. That's what I'm trying to tell you. It's over exponential amounts of time. You will see huge results because you're doing small changes. The key thing to this is consistency. The problem usually with people that I see in coaching that are not working on the compound effect is they're not consistent. If you want listings, you have to bust your ass off for them. And you have to bust your ass off by doing small changes consistently, your choices to get listings. So for example, I did a great video last week about finding listings. Well, that's wonderful. Finding houses that are off market. Okay, so it starts with watching, then it starts with choosing one of them, and it starts with implementing small over time. So it's choices, your behavior to watch it, your behavior to decide that you need better habits to finding listings, making it a habit over time, not rushing and expecting that after 7 days you're going to get huge results. Then you will have what we refer to as a compound effect of all 4 areas, and that compound effect will lead into huge rewards. Okay, I see it all the time. People start door knocking, they do it for 7 days, they give up. The first snowfall, the first sign of frost, they're like, man, I'm done, I'm finished. Okay, that's not it. When I wanted to see better results in swimming, everybody right now is going, holy shit, you swim so much better now. How did you do it? Well, when the pools shut down and everything shut down, I went and I found abandoned pools and vacant houses. Yes, I have my real estate license, so it was a little bit easier, but I had a friend on the Quebec side who was like, I have a house with a pool, it's freezing. He's like, it's absolutely freezing. Nobody's there, it's a vacant property. He's like, if you want it, it's yours. I was like, okay, I'm doing it. I mean, I can only do 5-minute sessions because I had cardio and doctors and everything else like that, watching your heart rate, because swimming in cold pools is slightly dangerous. So I could only do 5 to 10 minute increments at a time, but I did it, and I did it all the time. And you can ask anybody. I have another client who's out in Stittsville, and I would go over as soon as April hit. It was freezing cold outside. I was in their outdoor pool. They opened it early just for me. So you know what? So I was doing small changes. I made the choices. I changed my behavior around them. I created a habit of never quitting on that, just doing small 5-minute increment changes over a long period of time. And it ended up really cross-training my body in a way I didn't even expect it to go. So it's those things that have actually reached where I need to get to. In my coaching business, it's the same thing. People ask me how you build 3 companies. It's small changes, consistency all the time. I don't look for anything exciting. I look for changes of consistency. It's not the big choices that derail us. That's what you also have to remember about the compound effect. The compound effect is not about the big choices that derail us. It's your unconscious small habits that mess you right up. Okay, it's getting there. When I became very out of shape, Yes, I had a lot of bad choices, but it was a ton of bad choices. I had terrible choices, bad behavior, then created some of the worst eating habits I've ever seen in my life over a long period of time. And there ended up on the other side, okay? And that's what happened. So I had the compound effect, and I got huge non-rewards because of it. So it's not the big choices. It was all the small things. I was working in another country 50% of the time. I was traveling all the time. I had a crazy schedule. Nothing was working. I couldn't get into a flow of things. It was a lot of pressure. So it was change habits over time. So it's really, I mean, it's 10 times easier now that I'm not traveling even close as much. But even looking at where I'm going this week, I have to fly out to Florida. I'm going to be living there for a week and a half, blah, blah, blah. It's a lot of choices that you have to make. The old me would have totally messed it all up. So now my choices are a lot better. I put my priorities first as far. I rent a car. That's a great choice. I rent a car because if I have a car, I can have my behaviors of great eating and good habits done over time. I'm consistent with it. Therefore, I have compound effect of great results. It's all the small things that you guys are doing in your businesses, in your personal life, and everything else that are actually having, and you're doing those small unconscious things long periods of time. And that's what's causing the results to not be where you want them to be. Or in some areas, your choices and behaviors are outstanding and you're nailing it. You might have an amazing relationship, but your business is terrible. Okay, and you're wondering why. Well, take a look. Are you spending, I often find the people with the best relationships seem to travel a lot. So they seem to do a lot together. Like they do a lot together. So the amount of weekends and time off that they hang out and they do a couple of things together, their relationships are better and better and better. Well, that's, again, compound effect. Are you putting the same thing in place in your business and your personal life as well? Okay, so it's the small things, not the big things. Now, if you really look at it, the difference between number 1 and number 2 golfer, as he quotes in the book, is about 1.9 strokes. Okay, so it's 1.9 strokes. If you think about how many strokes a golfer has to do, that's incredible. The difference between the top prize money and the second one is huge. 1.9 strokes different. So it's not a big margin. And if you watch races or you watch business or you watch who's number 1 and who's number 2, it's not huge differences. Sometimes, yes, depends on what you're watching, but that's the anomaly. You're really looking at the biggest difference between number 1 and number 2 is often so minuscule that you know it's not big changes. It's small little things that you can do to improve that stroke, improve your lead generation. You don't have to go from 20 hours of lead generation to 40 hours of lead generation. You just have to change how are you doing lead generation. Is there something I'm missing? Are you sending your calls in to your coach? Are you having somebody listen to them? Are you having a third party assess them? What are you doing? Small stuff to look at it instead of ripping all your lead generation apart and going, I want to gaslight my entire business. Really take a look and say, I don't want to gaslight it. What small changes am I getting feedback on that I need to improve? Because I love lead generation, but it's not working for me. So what do I need to change? Instead of just going a whole different direction, a whole different set of hours, really take, it could still be the problem. However, if you're feeling like something that's used to work isn't work anymore, it's small little changes. Like we just had a TikTok expert on Friday, a TikTok coach do us this great session, and she was talking about how Instagram has changed some of their systems so that it's going to be harder to get business on it. And the truth is most people won't realize that until it's too late. But that's just a small change that Instagram did that is making us lean more towards TikTok right now. So it's kind of like this really interesting thing. Now, what you're going to see is habits, okay? My best advice to you guys who are watching this is any habit for anything that you're trying to create, whether it's business, professional, finances, whatever the case might be, everything should be trackable. So you really want to track everything. You know, I just did a great ride this weekend and my time was way slower than I normally do, but I stopped every 10 minutes almost and I just wrote down and I tracked and I tracked and I tracked. You know, how did I feel? What did I do? You know, what did my legs feel like? What about my nutrition? Did I nail it? Did I miss it? Whatever the case is, what was the wind speeds? I'm pretty good with the analytics behind that because I know how important it is. Same thing goes with your lead generation. Are you stopping and tracking everything? Are you looking at it? Are you measuring where you want to go? Are you seeing the improvements? Are you talking about how you feel about everything that you want to track? You really have to look at. And again, all your habits should be tracked if you want to see improvements, that because it's the small unconscious stuff. If you remember, I said that it's the small unconscious stuff that are creating the biggest changes in what you want to do. So if you're not tracking it, It's almost impossible to fix. I don't care what anybody says. So you need to track it. The other thing you want to remember is that the top 20% in any field spends their time on educating themselves instead of entertaining. Okay, and it's really funny because you can see it in the elite sports performers, and you can equally see it in elite business performers. They spend 20%, and even in the best relationships. So I want you to look at those three fields: business, sports, and relationships. You know, people who experience the best results in them, usually the top 20% who are happiness and experiencing the best results in those areas, they spend time educating themselves. And what do I mean by that? Well, no offense, but if you're in a relationship and you're in a happy relationship, you probably invest a lot of time into learning how to make each other happy. And that's a great investment, okay? Instead of entertainment, like the couples who take all the trips together, or, you know, they're always looking at entertainment instead of looking at educating on how to make the relationship better. Same thing with finances. Those of us who are really great at our finances, we spend a consistent amount of time, instead of entertaining and watching 100 YouTube videos, we're always educating ourselves. We're more into the educational seminars than we are into the watch the YouTube video on how to make $1 million. It's not what we do. Same thing in real estate and in business. Those who are in the upper 20%, if you look, we had $13–14 million GCI producers sitting on our Facebook Live call last week to find houses. Why? They're not sitting there entertaining themselves watching YouTube. They're going, wait a second, Mary-Anne knows her shit. She knows how to find off-market properties better than anybody. She knows the real estate market like the back of her hands. Let's watch this. Let's see what we can get away with. And they actually implement it. I got amazing emails and text messages from those guys saying that was really good. Here's what we've already done. So the top 20% spends time on educating and less on entertainment. That's a big one. Start eliminating triggers is the next point I want to make. I've got just a couple points for you guys left. Eliminate your triggers. And what I mean by triggers is what triggers bad habits. So we had this great discussion with the group that's all going down to Florida, and we were just laughing about it. I said, guys, you know, I have a great place in Florida. You're welcome to use it, whatever the case is. Come on in, whatever, store your bikes there, whatever you can do. I said, there's only one house rule. I said, the house rule is no cheese. We're not allowed cheese in my place. And I'm like, cheese is a trigger for me. Cheese is a massive trigger. I love cheese. I think it's awesome. I like it in moderations, but I cannot touch cheese about 3 weeks before any race because it'll mess up my entire nutrition system. I don't like it. It's very bad for my body. I just want to keep it, but I love it. So as soon as the race is done, I'm going to go cheese wild. But until then, it's not going to happen. So the point is like everybody was laughing, saying, oh, that's a trigger for me too. And that's great. But in business, what is your trigger? Okay, who is triggering your habits to become not productive? Who and what are the triggers? Eliminate all triggers. If you are triggered by your kids being at home and it's distracting you, you need a different office space. Like, eliminate your triggers. You know what they are. Just jot them down for a week and you'll see. Sometimes it's a person, sometimes it's an activity like social media. Eliminate your triggers. It's the best advice I'm going to give you, okay? When you lose 2 weeks, there's another tip. When you lose 2 weeks, you lose momentum, okay? I'm dead serious about that. If you are trying to create this system and do the compound effect, you can never go more than 2 weeks with being off track. It's that simple, because these are small changes. So it's not like you're reassigning your entire life. It's small changes, but 2 weeks kicks you out of momentum, and it takes another 30 to 60 days based on what you're trying to fix to put it back into a habitual state. So please watch for that. Eliminate the triggers, and don't go 2 weeks without this happening. And just remember something. The final point, garbage in, garbage out. Okay, it's very simple. What I mean by garbage in, garbage out is try to surround yourself with incredibly positive people that lift you up, not lift you down. Garbage coming in will only produce garbage coming out, and it's really hard to get the compound effect working if you're in a space and surrounded by people who are bringing garbage into you, and that's what you're going to give out is garbage. If you don't like the people you're around or the circle that you keep or whatever the case is, it's going to be very difficult. I surround myself with people that I enjoy. I only spend time with people that I like. I don't spend any time. I will say no 100 times over. I stopped that years ago. So just remember those things. So that's what I want you to get out of the compound effect. I gotta go back to work and get ready for Florida. So we will see you maybe next week. Depends if I have internet in Florida. We'll see you then. Bye, guys.